Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the August program meeting for the Licking County Computer Society, also known as the East Central Ohio Technology User Club. I will be your presenter this month, and I'm talking about AI again. Last time I talked about AI was a couple years ago, probably, right? Year and a half?
No.
It was at least a year and a half.
This year, wasn't
No, it wasn't this year.
it?
But now we're going to revisit that topic. Whoops, I need to get back in here and share my screen, don't I? And I'll ask you guys to help me, let me know when you can see it here. All right, you should be seeing full screen of the presentation any second now.
Yep.
There it is. All right. So I went in and I used Google Gemini, which has access to my drive, my Google Drive, and all of my presentations I've created out there. And I said, hey, take a look at the last AI presentation I did. It was slightly modified for an AI presentation. I used the same slides for a presentation to the Lakewood technology students. And I said, hey, I think it's time to revisit this. Give me some ideas for how to, updates. And then I want to add some content, and it kind of helped me lay out the presentation. So I'm going to jump right in here. And one thing I did want to mention is that I'd like everyone to interrupt me if there's any questions at all. So let me get into my other window here so I can see my presenter notes. All right.
Online people need to unmute yourself when you have a question. Otherwise, stay muted.
I get a lot closer here so I can see my notes a little better. All right, so a quick look back. This is kind of a look back on AI, but also a look back on the last time that I presented on AI. And, a good introduction for AI is the foundation for everyone to understand that at its core, AI is nothing more than machines performing tasks that are typically requiring human intelligence. They run on similar computers to what we use at home and at work. It's not new. The field has been evolving for decades. It's built on foundational theories and algorithms that have persisted over those many years. Some key pillars of early AI, which are also still very relevant, are machine learning, which is when you teach computers to learn from data without explicitly programming them. Some examples are spam detection and recommendation systems. So spam detection has a lot of emails that have been identified as spam by users, and then it uses that information to decide what spam, what matches the pattern for spam in the future. Kind of like when somebody asks me, hey, what do I look out for spam messages? And you say, oh, an email address that doesn't line up with the organization, or typos, or questionable looking links in the spam message. AI is going to use the same kind of patterns to detect spam, just like we would. One of the other key pillars of early AI is deep learning. So it's a subset of machine learning, but it uses neural networks with many layers inspired by the human brain. If you think about how the human brain works, you have neurons connected to other neurons that help you associate memories and generate things like speech. AI is getting a lot closer to that. So neural networks and AI are very similar to the neural networks in our brains as far as architecture goes. Some breakthroughs in deep learning have been things like image recognition and complex pattern detection. The third key pillar of early AI is computer vision. It enables computers to see and interpret visual information. Some applications of computer vision are facial recognition, object tracking, medical imaging analysis. So facial recognition, I know Facebook's had this for like at least 10 years, where you upload a picture and it puts squares around people's face and you hover over it, and it's actually pretty good about guessing who that person is based on who's tagged in other photos that you've taken and uploaded. So that's really a good application example. The final key pillar of early AI is natural language processing. That allows computers to understand, interpret, and generate human language. So uses our sentiment analysis. That's where a computer listens to someone speaking, and based on the word choices and the inflections and tones, the computer can, just like, recognizing someone in a picture, it can recognize your speech as being unhappy, super happy, a little angry, infuriated, anywhere, any of those, right? Machine translation and chatbots are also examples of natural language processing. So it's used for not just generating language, but recognizing the language it comes into. Anyone that's ever used the microphone button on the keyboard on their phone to speak a text message and then see how it comes out, it's hit or miss, but I think overall it's gotten better over the years. So I did want to talk a little bit about the before picture, which is kind of how these key pillars of early AI have been used up until before the last few years. AI was primarily used as a specialized tool for prediction, like we mentioned, forecasting trends and customer behavior, classification. So it could have been used to categorize data such as emails being spam or not. Another example, classify the photos that you have, because it has that image recognition. It can classify photos on your phone. And, most Android and Apple users probably don't even know this, but if you go to your photo library and you hit the search, you can type in cat and it'll show you all your pictures with cats in them. Pretty handy if you want to show off your, your furry friends to your new people that you're talking to. Another one of the older solutions from these early AI pillars is automation, streamlining repetitive processes. Significant progress is being made, but often required vast amounts of labeled data and specialized expertise. That's kind of the wrap up of the before picture. So what's the game changer? Generative AI. I think the last time I did an AI presentation was actually pretty shortly after ChatGPT came out. It was still very new to us. We brought up the chat interface in our meeting at that time, and we asked it how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, and it gave us an approximate answer based on the woodchuck size and everything. But for those that weren't on the last meeting or haven't ever heard of generative AI, what is it? It's a major paradigm shift in AI. Unlike traditional artificial intelligence, which primarily analyzes and interprets existing data, generative AI creates entirely new original content. It's about production, not just prediction. Now, a lot of this content you could say is derivative. You could say that it's derivative. Usually if it's derivative, it's on purpose. Like, you could ask AI to write a song about the Licking County Computer Society in the style of Bob Dylan, and of course it's gonna sound like Bob Dylan, right? But there's other people that are claiming that, that's not a good thing. I think generally speaking, the content you generate in AI is not going to be derivative to a specific artist or content creator unless you mention them. At least that's been my experience. So what does this generative AI create for people? It creates text in the form of articles, stories, software code, marketing copy, summaries, dialogues. It creates images. It creates realistic photos, artistic illustrations, 3D models, and it does it all from text prompts. They're using generative AI to create audio and music, voiceovers, sound effects, original musical compositions. It's gotten to the point where when I'm doom scrolling my YouTube feed for the next video to watch, it's happening more and more frequently. I'll start watching a video and I'll notice I don't see the presenter's face, and I see like a lot of stock image for the background, and I like what they're saying, but then I figure out that it's an AI robot voice talking. It's not even human talking. Then I stop watching it because I'm more interested in watching the humans, of course. I mentioned that it creates code. So it generates functional programming code in various languages. And it also creates videos. So it can synthesize video clips or even entire scenes. I think the latest predictions are that in the next couple years, an AI, if you have access to a powerful enough AI, can create a full-length feature movie based on text prompts. And the more text prompts you give it, the more specific the movie could be. And down the road from there, they're talking about using AI to create AAA, which are the top tier best of the best video games from prompts. Just have the AI create the entire game based on your input. So why is generative AI a game changer? It allows for unprecedented creativity at scale. It automates tasks previously thought to require human creativity. So I think a fear with a lot of people is that human creativity is being replaced by this. But at the same time, if you picture someone like me, I'm not an artist. I would not be able to, in 100 hours, create a piece of art that I could ask the AI to create, using the ideas that I have. And the problem with that is that it would replace the job of an artist. But if you also consider the fact that I don't have the resources to hire an artist, and if it wasn't for the generative AI, I wouldn't be creating the art. Not that I'm calling it art, and not that I'm even doing that. It's just an example. But those are some things to consider. For accessibility reasons, powerful models are increasingly available to individuals and small businesses, not just your large corporations like IBM, Google, so forth. It's also a game changer over its rapid adoption and impact. Generative AI's capabilities have rapidly reshaped industries from content creation and marketing to software development and scientific research. I saw in the news lately a lot of recent computer science graduates out of college are actually having trouble finding those entry-level jobs because if a company can, use a more senior software developer, and instead of hiring a new person and then having to, spoon feed that person requirements to help you develop code in little pieces, you can ask the AI to do it, and it's probably going to do a similar level of quality in its work. The other reasons game chambers for new human AI collaboration. This is part I like. Opens up entirely new ways for humans to interact with and leverage AI as a co-creator and assistant. So in this vein, I use Google Gemini. It has a special feature when you're typing an email even. I didn't use it on the one I typed today, maybe I should have, where it'll pop up and ask you if you want to polish the message. And it'll usually take your entire email that you're drafting and it'll give you like a professional option, a casual option, or usually some third option of like collaboration or something. And you can take that and replace your entire email with the suggestion, or you can just copy and paste tidbits of it, or copy it and then edit it to make sure it still sounds like you. But it's pretty handy feature. So what are some key examples of generative AI in action? I think I covered a lot of these examples on the last slide, some of the use cases, but I'm going to run through my notes through this slide pretty quickly. Examples of text generation are ChatGPT, which we saw last time, and Google Gemini, which I'll be most likely demonstrating at the end of this talk. They're large language models that generate human-like text. They answer questions, they write code, they brainstorm ideas. I know that Google Gemini especially has like a conversation mode where you can set it on your phone and you can have back and forth brainstorming ideas and it'll keep listening. I've tried it once. Doesn't seem like something I'll use a lot in its current state, but it's there. And even create content in various styles. The impact is that it's revolutionizing customer service, content creation, education, and software development. For education specifically, I know some of the more popular chatbots have what they call tutor mode, where if you set your AI to that mode, or if you set it to that mode and hand it off to the student, it's not just going to give them an answer to something. It's going to help them figure the answer out with help, basically. And it's also an excellent way to tailor education for individual needs. Instead of one teacher speaking to an entire class using the same words and the same slides and the same reading assignments, you could have individualized learning for each student in the class. The next category of examples would be image generation. DALL-E is one that's created by OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, and then Midjourney is another popular one. These tools create unique images from simple text descriptions. Adobe Firefly and ImageFX by Google are similar tools for image generation. The impact of these is transforming graphic design, marketing, art, and visual storytelling. Using text prompts, you could create your own little comic strip in seconds. AI is your co-pilot for code generation example. That's a big one. GitHub Copilot is a tool created by Microsoft. It's also based on OpenAI. It's an AI pair programmer that lives in your software development environment, and it suggests lines of code, entire functions, and corrections as you're typing. And it's also there as a chat partner to answer questions about the code in the window that you're looking at. And you can say, all right, hey, it'll even create a whole method that it anticipates that you'll need, and then you go in and do the fine detailing. So that's dramatically speeding up software development. It's reducing boilerplate code, and it's helping developers learn new languages. And then the final category of examples would be audio and music generation. MusicFX by Google and a tool called AIVA. That one's new to me. Those models can compose original music pieces or generate soundscapes based on descriptions. Again, if you're looking to get famous by creating AI music, I would not say to use the prompt in the style of X artist unless you want to be sued. The impact is it's opening new avenues for musicians, content creators, and game developers, allowing for bespoke audio experiences. So beyond the hype, what are some of the other key advancements in AI? So generative AI has captured a lot of attention. Some other advancements that are continuously shaping the AI landscape include multimodal AI, which impacts all of our senses. AI systems that can process, understand, and generate information across multiple data types simultaneously. This means they can connect text with images, audio with video, and more. An example would be, imagine an AI that can understand a spoken question, then generate an image and a piece of text as the answer. We already have that. The impact, it enables more sophisticated and human-like interactions. It's crucial for applications like advanced robotics, immersive virtual experiences, and comprehensive content understanding. Google has a tool called Gato, or I think it's Gato, G-A-T-O. It's an early example. It's not available to the public yet, as far as I'm aware, but it's been trained at performing 600 different type of tasks over diverse modalities. The second one is pretty interesting here. The small language models. So we've heard that these generative AI like ChatGPT and Gemini are large language models. They run on servers with they require all these GPUs, all these resources, all this water to keep them cool so that they can, take a picture of your cat and add like a clown hat to it, right? So the trend here is a shift towards developing more compact, efficient AI models that require less computational power and data compared to the larger counterparts. So an example of this would be the Google Pixel Pro series of phones, starting with version 9, and then they're announcing 10 on the 20th, actually have a neural chip on the phone so that your Google Assistant, like I have this older Motorola ThinkPhone. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. And if I want to use the Google Assistant on there, I have to say, hey, Google, and then yep, there we go. And then I ask my question, and it always goes to the cloud to interact with its server to process my voice and make decisions about what I want to do. With a small language model installed on some of the newer phones, it does, the low level initial computation on your phone, and it only goes out to the server if it really needs, resources from the internet or extra processing power. So if you're using it to do something like send a text to one of your contacts, it won't even need to go online unless you count sending the actual text over the SMS network. So why do these small language models matter? They're cost effective, they're cheaper to train and run, they're faster, quicker reference times for real-time applications, local deployment, like I mentioned, they can run on edge devices such as smartphones and IoT devices. So you could, 10 years from now, there could likely be small language models running on every electronic device, that you would normally have with you, your cell phone, your laptop, your watch, your toaster, your alarm clock, all that stuff. Definitely your television, right? To help you find what you're going to watch next based on what you just finished. And then specialization for small language models, they often excel at specific narrow tasks. Impact for small language models is they make powerful AI more accessible, enabling widespread deployment to diverse applications, from personalized on-device assistance, like I mentioned, to specialized industrial applications. And then the other key advancement here, and this one is really big in 2025, is agentic AI, which is anonymous action and reasoning. So instead of having a chat bot where it requires a human to ask it to do everything, you create an AI agent that runs on a server somewhere. It receives input from multiple sources. It can receive emails. It can receive API calls from other software. It can receive messages from other AI agents or chatbots. And it processes that information with a specific goal in mind and outputs data to the target environment, which could be a database update. It could be an outgoing email. It could be a transaction in an accounting system, for example. So the entire concept of agentic AI is AI systems designed to plan, act, and achieve complex goals autonomously, often by interacting with various tools, APIs, and environments, kind of like I mentioned. They don't just generate, they actually do a job. It involves sophisticated planning, tool use, memory, and self-correction capabilities. And it moves AI beyond static responses to dynamic problem solving. Potential applications include automating complex workflows, creating self-improvement software, and managing intricate systems in fields like logistics and finance. It marks a step towards more independent and proactive AI systems. So let's look at AI's growing economic and social impact. AI is no longer a niche technology. Its influence is rapidly expanding across all sectors, reshaping economies and societies. Looking at the market growth of AI recently, everyone's heard about the investment boom because all these companies are now, hundreds of billions of dollars in value. Private investment in AI startups has skyrocketed, especially in generative AI. Everyone wants to be the next ChatGPT, right? Billions of dollars are pouring into research development and new features. There's vast market projections for future growth, and that analysts predict the global AI market will continue to grow exponentially. That means like this, reaching trillions of dollars in value within the next decade. I find that very easy to believe. This indicates a profound shift in economic activity. The next category of impact would be the widespread adoption. If you look at cross-industry integration, AI is no longer confined to Silicon Valley. Businesses in diverse non-tech sectors like healthcare, finance, education, manufacturing, retail, entertainment They're all integrating AI for everything from optimizing operations to enhancing customer experiences. And then the democratization of tools. User and friendly AI tools and platforms are making advanced capabilities accessible to smaller businesses and even individuals, fueling innovation across the board. Yeah, anyone watching or listening to this has access to an advanced AI system and is capable of using it whether they know it or not. So job market transformation. This is a big one for those still in the working part of their careers. So one of the big things happening right now, even in my personal experience, is automation of repetitive tasks. AI is increasingly taking over routine, predictable, and data-intensive tasks across various industries. This can lead to the displacement of certain roles, particularly those based on manual or highly structured processes. So if you have a job where you're sitting in front of a computer and everything you do is on keyboard and mouse, and it's basically human language in, human language out, or numbers in and math out, those are the type of white collar jobs that are going to be highly susceptible to automation, especially over the next several years. Crucially, AI is also creating entirely new jobs and requiring new skill sets. Roles focused on AI development, deployment, maintenance, ethics, and human AI collaboration are emerging rapidly. And then this last bullet point I thought was especially interesting and worth sharing and something I want to focus on. A fundamental understanding of AI's capabilities and limitations is becoming a vital skill across all professions. The focus is shifting towards roles that leverage human creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and complex problem solving in conjunction with the AI tools that are available. So with all this, there is a new focus on AI ethics. So AI has ethics, apparently, right? So the three main things that it wants to focus on for AI ethics is bias and fairness, transparency and explainability, and data privacy and security. So the problem with bias and fairness is that AI systems learn from available data. If there's bias in our society, such as certain category of people not being considered for a job, for example, then the AI system trained on that knowledge could potentially have that same bias when it's, evaluating, 1,000 candidates for a single job opening, right? So that's just something we have to be careful about. The goal there is to develop methods to detect, mitigate, prevent bias. Transparency and explainability is also known as a black box problem. Many advanced AI models, especially deep learning ones with the neural networks, they operate as black boxes because the creators of those neural networks, they create the training algorithms that go out and investigate all this data that's supplied. And you got to remember these larger models have access to basically everything that we know as humans, right? And everything on the internet. They're creating these neural nets linking all of these topics and ideas together. That's how they kind of generate their text. But it's not human readable. You can't go into the neural network and say, oh yeah, look how this is working. The goal and the way to get around this is to have the AI explain how it reasoned its way into giving a certain answer or creating a certain artifact. So AI could tell you, you could ask it a question about a topic, get the answer, and then it'll also have a footnote saying, I as the AI connected this to this. This is how I reasoned that these things, and then you can also provide feedback looking at the data about how it was thinking about what you would do differently. And that's some of the reinforcement training that takes place before they even release the models to the public. And then data privacy and security is a focus on AI ethics. The problem here is AI models require vast amounts of data, much of that data is going to contain sensitive personal information. There's a constant risk of data breaches, misuse, or inadequate anonymization. In order to avoid compromising privacy, the AI developers are implementing robust data governance frameworks, secure data handling practices, and privacy preserving AI techniques like federated learning to protect user information. So I'm not sure, has anyone heard about, governments trying to regulate artificial intelligence? I see it in the news a lot. Maybe it's because I subscribe to that kind of stuff. I don't know if everybody's seeing this kind of articles, maybe a little bit. So there are increasing global efforts to regulate AI. National AI strategies and laws, many countries are actively developing or have already implemented national AI strategies. And then there's international cooperation and frameworks that are also standing up. Example for some of the country ones, several nations are exploring specific laws around AI-driven decision-making, data use, liability. Liability is a big one. If AI causes someone to lose their life, who's responsible? You can't, the AI itself cannot be held responsible, but can the creator of the AI or the user of the AI or the person that was supposed to be watching the AI be held responsible? It's just like anything else in the litigation world. It's going to come down to the facts, right? Some examples of the international cooperation and frameworks are the OECD's principles on AI, the European Union's AI Act. It's a landmark piece of legislation aiming to regulate AI based on risk level, setting a global precedent. And then the UN is also actively involved in discussions about the ethical dimensions and global governance of AI. I can't see the UN enacting anything that would be enforced anywhere, especially in the US. So what are the core principles of the emerging AI governance? They're looking at accountability, ensuring that there are clear lines of responsibility for AI systems and their outcomes, especially when things go wrong, like I was mentioning. Who is liable for an AI mistake? They're looking at human oversight, maintaining meaningful human control and intervention over AI systems, particularly in high stakes decisions rather than fully autonomous operation. Safety and security, they want to develop AI that is robust, reliable, and resistant to malicious attacks, ensuring it operates as intended without causing harm, includes rigorous testing and validation. Transparency and explainability, that was kind of what we talked about before, overcoming the black box effect. And then fairness and non-discrimination, that goes kind of into the bias to make sure that, historical bias and discrimination in human history are not adopted by the AI models. So the future is now. This is a glimpse at kind of what's happening now and in the near future. Human machine collaboration, it's beyond a replacement. The narrative is shifting from AI is taking our jobs to AI is augmenting human capabilities. AI is becoming a powerful partner, enhancing our productivity, creativity, and problem solving. So, I mean, we see a lot of companies in the news laying off 1,000 people here, 1,000 people there, because their jobs have been replaced by AI. I think the quiet portion of that we're not seeing a lot of news about is people are retiring or leaving jobs, and instead of replacing those people, we are giving AI collaboration tools to the people that are still working there to help them cover the work that left. AI is often seen lately as a co-creator. Designers use AI to generate iterations of their works for all different types of media. Doctors leverage AI for diagnostic support. These partnerships unlock new levels of innovation and efficiency. And then there's a focus on hybrid teams where success will increasingly depend on efficiently integrating AI tools with human talent. Another glimpse ahead is AI and scientific discovery. Research timelines are greatly compressed by AI in many cases. It's revolutionizing scientific research by rapidly analyzing vast data sets. Drug discovery and materials science, AI is already accelerating discovery of new drugs, predicting protein structures, et cetera. I've heard about AI models that can simulate every cell in the human body as a system and predict how the human body and the individual cells respond to new chemicals, aka drugs, being introduced to the body. And that's something they can do many times over and many times before they get to any animal or human for actual, more dangerous testing. Material sciences, the AIs are designing novel materials with specific properties that these are chemical makeups that don't exist in nature and that humans haven't created. It used to take years to design new materials. Now it can be achieved in months or weeks. And then complex problem solving, from climate modeling to astrophysics, AI is tackling challenges that were previously too complex or computationally intensive for traditional methods. And then the last bullet on the glimpse ahead here is the autonomous systems. We're moving beyond limited self-driving car tests and seeing more truly autonomous systems in action. If you look at the news, sometimes there's a company called Waymo. They have the driverless cars that are at least in 3 big cities, one in California, one in Texas, one, I can't remember, somewhere in the Northeast maybe. But they're actually having cars where you instead of an Uber, you call a Waymo, they pull up, there's nobody in it, you get in it, you ride to your destination, and then you get out. I mean, that's the future is now, right? It also includes autonomous logistics and warehouses, self-piloting drones for inspections and deliveries, and advanced robotic systems in manufacturing and hazardous environments. Another example of this that I've heard about recently is that I know Hertz and some other rental car companies, instead of doing a walk around with the guy when you get back with the rental car, they're driving it through his AI scanner. And depending on the car rental company, I'm not going to give anybody a bad name, but I've heard of some companies will take the results of that scan and send you a $600 bill for a ding that's caused by a rock that got kicked up by a tire when you were driving down the interstate, right? Some of the smarter ones are going to take humans to look at those results and say, okay, that's not really a big deal. We're not going to send a bill for that. But the important thing is getting it right and making sure that I've seen this even with systems without AI on car rental companies. I've heard horror stories about people being charged for damage that was there before they even picked up the car. So if they can get it right, it can be handy for that. But I think that's the case where you always want to have a human confirming the data output before you just go sending people bills for hundreds of dollars for the ding that you found on the car. That's just one example. And then I've also heard that some hotel chains are using AI to tell when people are doing things in their hotel that they're not supposed to, like smoking or vaping, or those are a couple examples I heard. And then with the autonomous systems, we have enhanced reliability and safety in some ways. They're continuing advancements, and they are making the systems safer overall, more reliable, and capable of operating increasingly complex and unpredictable real world conditions, kind of like driving down the highway. It makes the news when an AI takes a life, but overall, automated systems driving cars are going to be safer and more reliable than humans, because humans, we're not really great drivers, generally speaking. And then, so this slide, this is more personal for me, my evolving opinion of AI. I think the last time I gave a presentation and something I kind of felt like, I studied AI in college back in 2006, 2007. And back then, I always felt like the phrase artificial intelligence was a misnomer because it wasn't intelligence. Well, now I'm asking myself, what is intelligence? If you compare generative AI to humans, we're both trained on multiple modes of data, right? From infants, we are. We both store data with connections and neural networks. That's how we make connections between our memories. we both recall the data related to a topic when prompted, right? If you ask a generative AI a question, it goes into its neural network and says, this relates to this, I'm gonna spit this out. Our brains work very similarly. And then we both give the impression of consciousness, right? Humans do, and generative AI does too, at least it tries, right? Um, and then widespread job loss, I think, will be a thing, more with white collar jobs first, like I mentioned previously. Blue collar jobs are gonna be several years later. If you look at blue collar jobs, they would obviously require interacting in the physical world. The robots are getting better. And once, I mean, the robots, they have pretty simple servos, motors, uh, sensors and everything to navigate the world. You throw AI on top of that, and it's, exponential compounding of capabilities. So I threw this slide on there just for fun. I've been following this guy on YouTube. He created this. His name's on the next slide. He created this phrase, the post-labor economy. So post-labor economics is a theoretical framework that explores how an economy would function if technological progress, especially AI, significantly reduces or eliminates the need for human labor for production. This moves beyond traditional job displacement to a scenario where work as we know it is no longer the central pillar of economic participation. And if you think about this, since the Industrial Revolution and since the automation of farming, 80% of people were farmers in 1800. Now it's like 2% of people are farmers, right? And they supply more than enough food for the world if you ignore the artificial scarcity that goes into distributing that food. But the problem is now, in the past, whenever a new technology comes along, we'd always say, oh, what's going to create new jobs in this area for people? Well, the problem is when AI is coming along and automating tasks, the new jobs it creates are no longer guaranteed to be filled by humans. They're going to be filled by AI and robotics and other automation. So the core debate about post-labor economics is that, there's the optimist that envision a utopia scenario where AI creates massive wealth and abundance by automating repetitive tasks, freeing humans to pursue creative, social, and intellectual endeavors. The challenge there would be ensuring the wealth is distributed widely, perhaps through universal basic income or other social safety nets. The dystopian scenario for AI taking all our jobs is that the benefits of AI-driven productivity are concentrated in the hands of the few, leading to extreme inequality. Without a broad base of employed consumers, the consumer economy, which is, I think, 60% of our GDP is consumer economy, would stagnate, creating a two-tiered society of the owners of all these automated tasks and the unemployed people that no longer have their labor as a bargaining chip when it comes to interacting with the government and with the haves, basically. So what are some key questions for the future? If anyone has answers to any of these, raise your hand and tell me. So how will we define human value and purpose in a world without traditional work? I've seen Star Trek. Looks pretty nice. I don't know how real that is. What new social contracts and economic systems will be needed to manage the transition? Will we see a new type of algorithmic rights and digital identity tied to economic participation? And how can we ensure that AI-driven wealth is democratized to prevent massive social and economic instability? So, conclusion for the whole spiel that I've given today. Key takeaways: generative AI is a game changer. It's a new wave of AI. Is not just analyzing, it's creating, revolutionizing how we interact with technology and produce content. AI's impact is pervasive. From economic growth and market shifts to the transformation of the job landscape, AI is reshaping nearly every industry and aspect of daily life. That kind of reminds me of, we had a guy stop by at the Computer Society. He was down here for, I think, a funeral or something, but he came upstairs and was talking to us in the lab during one of the repair meetings. He says, "I hate computers." And I said, "That's okay. You don't have to like computers to benefit from, the good they do in the world, right?" So even if you don't like AI, it's still going to impact your life, even if you're not using it directly. Um, Ethics and governance of AI are paramount. As AI's power grows, and it's going to grow, so does the critical need for responsible development, ethical considerations, and robust regulatory frameworks to ensure fairness, transparency, and safety. And then the future is collaborative. The most impactful path forward lies in human machine collaboration, accelerating scientific discovery, and developing increasingly sophisticated autonomous systems. The evolution of AI is not in the distant future. It's happening right now. It demands our attention, understanding, and proactive engagement. How will we collectively shape this new era of intelligence to ensure it serves humanity's best interest? Um, so even talking to people younger than me, like my children, they're 20 and 18. They have no interest in AI. They think it's bad and it needs to go away. The problem is if people can make money with AI, it's not going away, right? So we need to adapt to live in a world where AI becomes increasingly more and more a part of our lives and society in general. Um, if you find this interesting, go on YouTube, write down this name. This guy's name is David Shapiro. He has a YouTube channel. He's super intelligent. I couldn't begin to even I mean, I understand most of what he's talking about, but he's just a really sharp guy. He knows a lot about AI. He speaks with all the AI experts in the field, and he's the guy that came up with the post-labor economics theorem that he shares on his site. It's pretty interesting. You don't have to believe it. It's still interesting to hear. And so that's all I had on slides. I did want to get into a little bit of a demo. Before I do that, I'm going to stop sharing and ask if anyone has any questions or feedback. I'm definitely open to correction if I said something that sounds crazy that you guys don't agree with. So I'd like to hear it.
I would just comment that to me, what I like the most about it is the applications for medication and research and whether all of that. My issue is that it seems like in some of the most basic, simplistic uses of AI,
It gets something wrong.
you get back. An example I think is perfect. There's Weather Vane Theater in Newark, Ohio. There's Weather Vane Theater in I believe it's Akron, Ohio, and they look real similar. There's no relation whatsoever. So I Googled the upcoming season, which was a while ago, 2025 season, Weather Vane Theater, Newark, Ohio.
And it still gave
And
you the
it
accurate.
came back, said Newark, Ohio, and it was the Akron schedule.
Yep. And so a lot of every AI tool out there does that, right? Especially the generative AI tools, not so much the agentic stuff. But yeah, that's something that's going to get better over time. But I mean, how many people do you know where you ask them a question, they blurt out some answer sounding like they know it all, and that you find out that they were wrong?
But to judge that more than you think when you get it back with all of the official.
Yeah, don't believe everything you hear from
Yeah.
AI
And
or humans, especially if it sounds suspect.
Driving to, from Columbus or Dayton to go to this program in.
Well, hopefully they buy their
Newark,
tickets
and
online and realize that it's in Akron first, right?
well, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things like that, and I guess my
I've seen that
thinking
too.
is, if they can make errors in something that specific and simplistic, how can you trust the complex, the larger, the more serious implications? How
Yeah.
do you develop that trust?
So, yeah, that's a good question. So all these AI bots, give you a warning. This is a generative AI and can make mistakes. Always double check your sources for everything, right? So if I was Googling something like that and asked Gemini, for example, to tell me what's coming out at Weather Vane in North Ohio, only North Ohio, not Akron, usually it'll give you a link in there saying, here's where I found this data, and you can click on the link and go to the actual source to get the source information. And if that source is the Akron Weather Vane website, that would be a huge red flag, right? But some of those are just these are just the free chatbots that we have access to as the general public. The companies using these tools for things like creation of medication, they're going to have much more sophisticated generative AI that checks itself for inconsistencies. They'll take the output of that AI and run it into another AI, and over and over again to make sure. I mean, they can double check themselves in milliseconds repeatedly over and over until it gets an answer that it thinks is 99.99% correct before they even think about injecting a rat with it, right? That's a good comment and good question. Thank you.
I don't
What's up?
understand if there's a cost to this or the information that we can use or somebody, I don't know, has to put all this together. And if we're not in business,
I did.
On the floor box.
Thanks. I have that problem sometimes. I got out of my wife's car. We went to La Paloma Express last night and I forgot my wallet and I went out to the car and the car was unlocked and it was laying right in the middle of my seat.
Oh, my God.
yeah.
But what Jim, what were you saying?
What, is there a cost to us that we're using it or who's paying for the information that we're asking for at this point?
Yeah, if you're not paying for a service, and I remember hearing this back in the Facebook days, if you're getting a product, if you're not paying for a product, but you're enjoying it, you are the product.
Okay.
It's training on your data. And so just like there's a free tier for a lot of services online, there's a paid tier. So you can have Gemini, but then you can also have Gemini Pro where it's like $20 a month. And then they have like, I don't know the name of it, but there's another one that's like $200 a month. So you can go really crazy on it. But yeah, that's how it's free.
What scares me is someday I might go to the doctor and then nurse says, well, just a minute, when I see what AI says, we'll treat you.
Well, I think where it could be handy is I've heard stories about people that put all their symptoms into AI. It tells them what's really wrong with them after the doctors listened to their story and didn't know what was wrong with them. And they can take that output to their doctor and say, hey, is this a possibility? Can you test me for this? And the doctor say, oh, I'm a human brain. I didn't even think about that. I didn't read my whole medical book with every symptom that you gave me. Let's go ahead and test you. Maybe the AI is right. Maybe it's not. We're not going to crack your chest open because AI says you're having a heart attack. But at the same time, if AI is pointing to something based on, the wealth of human knowledge, we can at least consider it, right? And maybe save your life that way. What were you going to say, Mike?
This electricity bothers.
It bothers me too. I got shocked.
Like I heard a data center like in Columbus uses as much electricity as the whole city.
Mhm.
So we're going to rely on a system that continually has to use more and more electricity all over the United States. And when I travel around the United States, it is hot as hell outside.
I went to Arizona a few weeks ago. I agree.
Hotter. So there's an Achilles heel for this whole system.
Well,
And how are we going to produce all this electricity for this utopian situation that everybody thinks is coming up?
And
That-
water, right?
well, that Dave Shapiro guy that I was talking about, I listened to one of his YouTube videos while I was multitasking the other day. And one thing he talked about was how, sure, we can get to AI super intelligence, but for most tasks, getting to human level intelligence or maybe, only 10 times human level intelligence is going to be good enough. And then instead of focusing on more and more capabilities, you're focusing on efficiency, like the small language models that can run on your phone and so forth. You're not going to use Gemini. You're not going to have the whole Gemini system that requires a whole data center running on your phone. You're going to have something more small, more efficient. At the same time, we can use AI to help us discover efficiencies in power generation, nuclear fusion. They're talking about using tools from nuclear fusion, tools that they use to create these lasers to contain the fields around nuclear fusion, so kind of like the second Spider-Man movie in the early 2000s. And they use those tools to drill down into the superheated rocks to have, the super steam that generates power 10 times greater than regular steam for geothermal power production and so forth. But
Weren't they also talking about like nuclear fission on the moon or something and being able to
yeah,
transmit it back?
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, if it can be controlled by AI and it's safer than what
There's
humans
a
could do.
Data center next to Silent Hills. In Columbus, Amazon just built, and right next to it is 6 huge electric generators run by people. Got big tanks everywhere. They're not even going on grid to get their electricity, but they're putting all this heat into the atmosphere.
I'd rather see them create their own little mini nuclear power station than do that, but
Well, and the 3 Mile Island, the old nuclear station that was shut down for many, many years, they revised it, restored it in order to power a data center.
Microsoft, right?
I
that's
don't know
Microsoft.
what it is, but it's a data center there, that's what they're restoring it for. So basically, you're just net zero. I
Mhm.
mean, but that same station could power like that whole city
Right,
without that. And you know what's going to happen? Oh, yeah, like you say, that if they can use the small language model for, and that would be helpful, but they're not going to stop building and increasing the amount of data storage for the large language models. That's not going to happen.
it's an arms race between corporations and between the governments of the world. I mean, we as Americans don't want China having artificial super intelligence. They don't want us having it, but we definitely want it for ourselves, right? So yeah, it's literally an arms race. And the another cool thing about the generative AI and the material development, in theory, it should help us to create new novel materials that are more efficient for photocells, batteries that are more efficient and less prone to explosion, this type of things. But yeah, it's exciting, but yeah, I share the same concern about the energy it's using, for sure. But that's not gonna stop anyone.
Yeah, I know.
It didn't stop. I mean, if you don't care and you're driving monster pickup trucks, the companies making money off this AI aren't gonna be stopped either, so. Good one. What else you guys got? Any other questions, feedback?
You just all my questions I gave you yesterday.
I tried to include some of that here today.
The other issue that concerns me, and I love the aspects of the possibilities for it, especially, like I said, in medical research and those areas, but the human element and how that's going to affect those folks at menial task level, and how do we distribute the wealth in an equitable fashion? And I don't think we're a very good model for looking at how we would be willing to do that right now without AI.
Yeah, and
If you
that's,
look at what are we slashing, what's missing, and it isn't hurting the billionaires. And that's
Right.
just part of who we are going to be that would be any different.
if the creators and owners of the most complex AI systems ask the AI systems what to do, they probably wouldn't like the answer the AI gives because it wouldn't be good for them personally. So we probably won't hear too much from those people. But that Shapiro guy that I put his name on there for the YouTube channel, he talks about how in the future where the economy is not driven by labor, it could be more like right now we have an energy cooperative for our utilities, right? So there could be more of that where it's, membership, ownership and operation of shared corporations in a way. Like you go shop at Walmart, and buy a 10-pack of hot dogs. You're not just getting the hot dogs, you're getting a little tiny share of Walmart. You know what I mean? So I've heard
Who's gonna
that.
be buying the most hot dogs? It's not the people that need the most support. Anyway,
It's people that need the hot dogs at least, I agree.
and another little piece of that is the creative component. There are a lot of creators, whether it be movies, art, music, who are absolutely going to be hurt by this. And when you talk about, here's a company that can't now afford to hire somebody to do this, but now they can. That's also affecting musicians or artists that might be willing to do it for a much
I
lower.
think there's another side of coin there, though. If you look at the commercialization and, profit oriented decisions that are made in the entertainment industry, like music artists and so forth, I think that if you take the profit out of it and people are making music to express themselves and to share that with people, and people know that it's humans doing it, not AI, that's gonna be a different reason, and I think we're gonna see a lot more. I think there's potential for a lot more performative art to spring up if it's not being, because you can't make money off it anymore, right? Because you can do it for free, but why are people doing it then? Because they want to express themselves and have meaning,
Well,
right?
let me speak for a whole flock of professional musicians, that is their life.
Right, I
They are
understand,
not doing it just for the joy of performance.
I understand
They're
that.
doing it to survive and eat and pay the mortgage like everybody
Well,
else.
I mean,
That's.
They're no different than, well, I mean, they're no different than any of the rest of the people whose jobs are automated out then, right?
Well, that's the point. I agree with you 100%. We are eliminating, even, I mean, back before, like during the Industrial Revolution, we made machines that people couldn't do, impossible.
But we
Now
also
we're-
use them to create things that people could do, but much more efficiently.
Well, yeah, we could argue that point, but the point is, why, people have different skills. Just like you said, well, I'm not an artist, but I could use AI to generate this artistic thing where you could have somebody else do that and pay them, which is what they should do. Well, we have all different skill levels. Some people can do, like, no man's an island. You can't do everything. That's why we have different people can do different things. And that's the way that's the way it's been up until recently.
Mhm.
Now we're having machines do all those things, and it eliminates a person's desire or even incentive to do anything.
Yeah, and
They'll
I
be
mean,
sitting around and basically become useless.
I think there's gonna be a societal position where people do not want AI replacing jobs, so they're gonna try to prohibit that, right? And if we say, as the United States, for example, said, you can no longer replace humans with AI, then China, all the other countries are gonna keep doing that, and we'll get left behind in the dust, right?
Well,
And it's the same way at the corporate level. If you decide as a company that you are never gonna automate any work away and you're gonna keep fully staffed, your competitors are gonna annihilate you, right?
yeah, now to go another step further, we are all living on the same planet. What we do here affects everybody else, et cetera, and back and forth.
But
So,
some
yeah,
people don't
The
care.
entire planet is going to have to come to some, and they are starting to work on this idea of having all the world's nations will have the same system. Now, that's not to take away the identity of particular nations and people and everything, but have a set of rules that we all can agree on that is focused on human happiness and everything, rather than monetary gain and everything. Because right now, it's all based on money.
Yep.
The entire world is based on money. And the people are subject to that.
Mhm.
So
And the only reason that we're doing as well as we are is because we have our human labor as our input to that.
Yeah.
To the economy.
Yeah.
If human labor is no longer a large contributor to the economy, then we kind of lose our bargaining power
Yeah.
for anything like that. Yeah, it's really interesting. Can you guys see my screen again here? I think you can. So looking at my screen here, this is my Gemini website interface. Maybe I need to zoom in a little bit. Let's see if I can do that.
Is that your favorite go-to?
I like it just because I'm on Google for everything else and it makes it kind of handy. Let me see if I can zoom it in a little bit here. So what Gemini does is it remembers previous conversations you had. So I went into the conversation I was telling you guys about where I had asked Gemini to look at my AI presentation. So I wanted to pick up where I left off because I did use AI to look at the slides I created and create this intro that I gave to John that he shared with everybody about this presentation, right? So another thing I wanted to do was I wanted to ask Gemini, hey, can you see my slides file on AI Revisited? The one that I just presented? See, this is the Flash version. It's supposed to be faster. I cannot directly see the files. If you, in your Google Drive for privacy and security reasons, I can only access your files if you give me explicit permission and provide a specific query or URL. If you'd like me to help with the AI Revisited slides, you would need to provide me with the content from the file. That's not what it told me last time. It looked at my slide content for me. So let me try this. Look at my slides on my Google Drive about AI Revisited. Can you see the presenter notes? Just thinking. Now it wants me to copy and copy and share it. You know what? I'm going to do a new chat, but I'm going to use 2.5 Pro. And I'm going to say, look at my slides on my Google Drive about AI Revisited. If it tells me the same thing, I'm going to lose it because it was working better last time.
Maybe you could threaten it.
Well, now it's saying it shows, I have an option to show thinking so I can see what it's thinking about our interaction. I'm not clicking on it. Well, I can. Searching for the slides. So now this tells me everything that it's thinking about while it's preparing a response for me.
Remember when Elon didn't
All right.
like it?
So here it found the slides. It sees all the slides in that file and it gives me a high level overview. And I'll say, okay, can you also see the presenter notes?
Will has a question too sometime.
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
Okay, well, it wasn't necessarily a question. It was just a comment of all the discussion about AI and about, what's going to happen in the future. Might want to think about this. How many countries in the world actually are at replacement age? At replacement, meaning staying even, meaning there's about what, 2.1, 2.2 is the replacement. How many countries do you think really are above that or even at that? From what I've been reading, it's recovery period, recovery age for any country is, I don't think any country is actually there. And China is one of the least, because they had all of this problem with their one-child policy for so long. Then they went to 2 and 3. They're like one, a little bit over 1. Replacement is 2.1 or 2.2. We're in the same position, not as bad. So is Europe and a lot of other places. So when we're talking about, AI and taking over work and all that, we're basically probably in the last phase of any kind of bigger population in the world. So just think about that. Why would China be pushing for all of this?
And maybe people start seeing all this automation of jobs and they start saying to themselves, well, if there's not going to be jobs, I'm not going to have any kids.
Well, that, what I'm
Our
saying.
population could get a lot smaller if there's no work and just a lot of people enjoying this
Oh,
utopia of
well,
artificial.
What I'm saying is it's already happening.
Yeah.
It's already been happening. And
Yep.
and the other problem you have is fertility rates are dropping. So, it's not just that, it's a lot of things are happening. And I think we're in the last phases of all this discussion where we got too many people on the planet and all that. This is not going to be there. The way things are going, there are going to be less and less people unless something drastically changes, which I don't think it will. So AI, is going to actually somewhat help in the future if you think about it. And that's, I think, why China's pushing, because they're way behind the ball right now.
Yeah, they
what I
are.
mean?
Well, except when you comment, unless something drastic is happening or happens, one of the drastic things is climate change, which is being exponentially increased by a lot of what's going on. That makes the world a lot less inhabitable for a larger population. And you already have more and more people migrating from southern countries to more northern ones because of that. That's going to make a big difference on how much population can the world hold and support.
Lucky for us, we're in Ohio, which is now considered subtropical.
Uh-huh.
So there's a plus.
Well, on your point, one of the primary drivers of big corporations was to have an increase in population because that's how their economy works, by growth. Mostly corporations don't work well in a static situation.
That's capitalism in general requires economic
Yeah,
growth.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You got to have that growth. Well, I mean, consider like a few million years ago, we got along with a lot less population because we weren't worried about growth and profits from the growth. So personally, couldn't care less about a reducing population. We need to change the system in order to make it work with this situation.
I think it's gonna be a long, painful road before people in power think about that.
Well, there is gonna have to be a revolution or something for that to happen. It has to be worldwide. You can't do it here or there. It's got to be worldwide. And the European Union is starting to come together to form, of course, that they did that because of the current situation, but they're starting to think about uniting all the nations so we have a common goal to survive or whatever.
Yeah, an
But-
example of that succeeding in the past was the hole in the ozone layer. All the countries in the world signed a pact to
Yeah.
eliminate CFCs, and now that the hole in the ozone layer is expected to be closed in the next 25 years completely.
Mhm.
But anyway, we're getting a little off track.
Going back to the artist thing, who's gonna make a better picture using AI, an artist or a layman?
Well, it depends on who you ask. I would typically say an artist. But if I have no creativity and I want to create something funny, I can do it. Whereas if I didn't have the AI tool, it would not have been created in the past.
Oh, I'm seeing some incredible AI generated art coming through that, I mean, a lot of it really weird, but fascinating.
But there's always going to be a demand for human created art that people know was not created by AI.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But much less.
It could be less, but it'll still be there. Yeah. So what I typed in here, knowing that Gemini has access to the slide deck I just shared, including my presenter notes, what I'm going to do is ask it to, I'm telling it, I have a loved one without access to the internet, could be any reason. Please generate a text article on my AI revisited slides and presenter notes. Keep it to 1,200 characters. Might have to think for a little while on this one. But a use case for this would be if you had a family member that's in federal prison and the only he doesn't have access to the internet, but he can still get emails from you. And he wants to learn about AI, I can send him, well, that's not very big an article there, but if I can get this thing to give me more detail, it won't have the pictures, but it's plain text that I can copy and paste and put in a message to that person. So,
Adam, I interject that Zoom is doing that, that if we turn it on, which I didn't today, it will generate after the fact a summary of the whole presentation without pictures. And so that can be taking place right now. I see when we do it for APCUG that there's some errors. It assumes some things and assigns people to follow up stuff. And today, the presentation would have been credited to the EcoTuck in-person, whatever I wrote on there, location, because that's the microphone. So Adam Drake would not have been presenting today. It would have been the EcoTuck in-person location because
right.
that's the sound. So it's not perfect, but AI or Zoom is trying to include that now too.
But can you prompt Zoom to make sure it gives credit to the right person, for example?
No.
So, well, that would be a feature I would request then. So, what I prompted it, since it gave me such a small article, I said, give a lot more detail, getting closer to 12,000 word limit that I specified. I said, of course, here's a more detailed article based on your slides and notes designed for someone without internet access. So you could take this and print it out and give it to someone that doesn't care about the computer, but still wants to hear a little something about AI. I could copy and paste this into an email after I read it all to make sure it's correct and that it jives with what I was sharing with you folks. And then he can have access to this information in a different format. So that's just an example of something Gemini is capable of. You can also take a picture of somebody and say, hey, Gemini, give this guy a rainbow clown wig, and it'll try to do that, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. But you can do an image generation on here. Not always great. If you guys want to ask me to generate an image, I can.
Yeah.
What do you want to say?
Snowy mountains seen in Alaska with skiers coming down the mountain.
Generate an image of a snowy mountain scene in Alaska with skiers coming down the slope. One of the skiers is a human-sized fly. Let's see if it does that.
There you go.
And sometimes these can take a while, and sometimes they're terrible and they miss most. And if you ask for it to create an image with any type of text in it, the text is almost always garbled, but it's getting better and better.
It takes a lot of joy out of looking at YouTube videos too. That's like,
You know, it's AI generated.
yeah, or you're not sure.
This is called the Pro version, but see, I had signed up for Pro for half price through Verizon, and then I decided I didn't want it, so I canceled it. But I'm not paying for it anymore, so I don't know if I'm really having the Pro version or not, but it tells me I have access to Flash and Pro. But we can click on this picture now and see the skiers coming down the mountain, and one of them is a human-sized fly. Yeah, so, and it's even skiing, so that's pretty cool. Would you hang that on your wall?
No. Would I buy it? No.
Would you laugh at it?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Would I look at it on my phone? Yes.
All right, so it's getting close to 10 till 4. I think we can shut down the recording. Next month, our president, Jim, is gonna be here.
Next month.
Is it next month?
Okay, Adam, here.
Yes.
No, nope. You're waiting to hear back from Bill James, aren't you?
That's right. For next month, we're waiting to hear back from Bill James to come in and talk about mesh routers for our home Wi-Fi routing system. It's a pretty interesting topic. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully he'll be here with us. The following month, our own president, Jim Amore, is going to be here talking about Windows tips and tricks, right?
Yes.
Microsoft Windows tips and tricks. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it now.